Yep. Good.
Good morning, Bitcoin. We're back again. It's still Saturday, October 7th, 2017, and we're live at the Paralindsay Polis for the Hacker Congress, HCPP 17. I'm Thomas Hunt, joined by Tone Vays. Our guest today is Adam Back, the inventor of Hashcash, an early member of the Cypherpunk mailing list, and CEO of Blockstream and general man of crypto. Thank you so much, Adam, for being on the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Nice and loud into the microphone there. Project across the room. But let's just start off. Tone, where would you like to start?
Well, so how happy are you with how SegWit eventually got in? Was it a big relief over a Blockstream? Were you guys popping champagne like the Ethereum guys were when they forked their coin? What was it like when it was finally achieved and SegWit was coming in?
I think, like if you look back at the 148, 149 discussion, most of the Bitcoin developers were more in favor of 149. So it's good that it activated, but it was kind of a bit risky. Just the time frame, and it's a sort of brinkmanship strategy, right? It worked. Right. It's good that it worked.
It was risky. BIP 148 and the user-activated soft fork movement was risky. But were you guys, at least in your mind, were you happy that the users were really standing up what they believed in and taking all of these crazy pictures, some obviously crazier than others, in support of the user-activated soft fork?
I mean, I should speak for myself because people have different opinions, and there's a lot of different people in Blockstream, and a little bit of a variation in opinions. But I think people became sort of retroactively more supportive of the user-activated soft fork because they were like, well, you forced the issue and it worked, and so it was a useful precedent maybe that. It's actually the users' full nodes that define the consensus rules. So miners are more like providing a security service. And you should, it was in principle, people should know that was the case because in the first halving there were a few miners that decided they really wanted 50 bitcoins per block, not 25, so they kept going. And of course all the full nodes didn't barely notice that they did it. The hash rate fell a bit and it carried on. So they stopped pretty quickly, right? Because they were burning electricity and not getting rewarded. So I think it's kind of like that, right? If the miners were to preemptively change the rules, it just makes another network.
And so now that SegWit's activated on the network, are you excited for the future of Lightning Network? Do you think that this will solve Bitcoin's scaling problem?
Yeah, I'm very hopeful that we'll see Lightning live. There are a lot of people working on it, on smartphone wallets. There's a couple of people working on those, and 4 different groups working on Lightning. And Taj is at MIT now. I think he's also working on Lightning. They've at the Scaling Milan conference, there was a hackathon for 2 days afterwards, and I think all the Lightning guys got together and had a 2-day hackathon on interoperability, and so since then, as I understand it, they've made a lot of progress on interoperability. So it's they were able to test interop between different implementations, and I think it's progressing. People are making now live test transactions.
Mm-hmm. So let's stick with Lightning. So if some people are already making live test transactions, what do you think is a reasonable expectation for on the network Lightning channels to start actually working? And what do you think some of the best use cases are for the Lightning channels? Because it's just a one-to-one channel, so I would think that it's more useful for an entity that is taking in a lot of transactions from different users. I'm still a little unclear what the very best, most optimal use case for a Lightning channel is.
Yeah, so I mean, actually, Lightning has, it takes a while to sort of understand the implications and of the recirculation concept. So a number of the people working on the protocols have spoken about this in the past, but basically the idea is that if you were, lots of different users have got channels to different things, and let's say users load up, a couple $100 into a Lightning channel, they go into a Starbucks, they buy their cup of coffee, and at the end of the month they reload. Does it gain anything? Well, what is Starbucks going to do with it? They're going to sell it to pay their staff in US dollars. So they go to an exchange, they sell it. The user goes back to the exchange and buys more Bitcoin. And so you get all these on-chain transactions as they set up and tear down transactions. But actually, pretty soon the Starbucks guys and the exchange guys are going to notice there's an opportunity here, right? If they go on Lightning, when they can keep the money on Lightning, and when the user goes back to top up their channel, pays money to the exchange will just pay Starbucks to send the user their own money back, or aggregate other users' money. So basically, if you get that kind of situation going on, and other situations like it, it can potentially recirculate almost indefinitely. And it's also, it's multi-hop. So you might not have a channel to Starbucks, but you might have a channel to 3 or 4 other users, and some of those have channels to Starbucks, and that's good enough. So you could have like a 10-hop route in the network. It's automatically routing the cheapest route to send the payment, and using routes that have enough capacity. So the capacity could come from multiple channels.
But how would it know? Like, isn't anonymity lost with that system? Like, how would Starbucks know that I am friends with Tom? And if I have a Lightning channel with Thomas, and I'm not sure why I even would. I don't think we're sending micropayments to each other, and he has a Lightning payment with someone else, and that person has a Lightning channel with Starbucks. Do I really want Starbucks knowing that this is the 4th degree of connectivity that I have to these people? How good is the obscurity and fungibility over this? Like, I want to be able to pay Starbucks through Lightning, but I don't want them to know who my friends are.
Right. So, I mean, I think the idea is that you would have Lightning channel balances, which are hopefully not too identified to you as a starting point, and you didn't associate a full name with them and so on. And it's a kind of source routed network. So your wallet gets a map, and in the first version, each wallet node has, each wallet is both a peer-to-peer node and a wallet. So you would be routing transactions even on a smartphone for other people and taking small fees for it. So your wallet figures out for itself different routes by which it could get to Starbucks. And if somebody's eavesdropping on the network links are encrypted in a sort of onion encryption like Tor does. So it's kind of Tor-like. And so I think the guy at the end doesn't need to know that much about people earlier in the route. So it's a little bit like Tor, right? You get the request coming out and you send the response back, but you only see the end guy. You don't need to know the route.
And so what have been some of the legitimate criticisms you've had to address when it comes to these Lightning channels? Like, I know some people, it was a weird dynamic earlier when people were saying, well, Blockstream is trying to create these giant fees by creating a fee market, and at the same time, Blockstream wants to eliminate all fees with Lightning so that they don't get paid, which is like a catch-22. How did you guys deal with that criticism?
Well, I'll speak for myself, but I mean, it's clear that there's a lot of armchair protocol experts who have views on everything, who are maybe not consistent and just putting out lots of different, well, this could be bad and that could be bad, and the fact that those two things are contradictory doesn't deter conversation, right? It's the internet, so people are going to say what they think. But I mean, there should be competition between on-chain transactions and Lightning, which should, in the short term, I would imagine reduce fees on the main chain. I mean, my guess of how people would look to use this, or certainly what I would be comfortable doing, is to put all of the funds you would normally keep on a smartphone, so it's probably going to be under $10,000 if you're flying through airports and stuff. So, something that you might spend for a hotel or a flight or restaurants and things like that. So, sort of spending money for a period of time that you wouldn't be like bankrupt if you lost. I mean, okay, that can go on a smartphone with Lightning. And, the cold storage, savings, investments, trades on exchanges, that would go on chain. So, now there is an argument longer term that, because there are different players in the ecosystem. So miners in the midterm need to get paid fees. Right now, there's a lot of reward. It's in people's interest to have more scale. So presumably, miners will be okay with lower fees if it delivered some long-term value by allowing a lot more users to transact and get value from Bitcoin. So, but in the midterm, I think it's still okay because you can, if you can sort of multiply the number of transactions on Lightning compared to the on-chain transactions, then one on-chain transaction can pay, sort of prepay for hundreds of off-chain transactions. So that's the way I see it. The other thing to realize, which is is not obvious, is that it's backwards and forwards compatible in principle. So as a user with a Lightning wallet, you can send money to a user who doesn't have Lightning because your Lightning transaction is a channel, and you would just request that the other side, it's a multi-sig, right? So you'd request that the guy on the other end of the channel would peel off the channel, a Bitcoin to pay this other guy who doesn't know about Lightning, and they would just make a regular payment. And the other thing is, if somebody who doesn't have Lightning, you want them to pay you, and you have Lightning, you give them instructions to increase the balance of the Lightning channel, of one of your Lightning channels. So it can be opportunistic even. So I think the first implementations and wallets and things are focused on, the base case, but those types of extensions to make it very backwards compatible and interoperable are there. So it makes it feel less, because one of people's concerns is like, well, what am I going to do in my wallet? Am I going to have some coins in Lightning and some not in Lightning? And now it's a complicated concept. But I think the answer is no. You just put all the stuff in Lightning, and you can pay people who don't have Lightning, and you can receive money from people.
Just like SegWit. Actually, some of the wallets still have not integrated SegWit addresses yet. So it's a bit of a programming challenge. So do you think it will be a little easier for them to add Lightning to their wallets, or is it going to be another challenge programming, especially for some of the smaller wallets out there with one or two developers?
I would say SegWit is a lot simpler to integrate, sadly, for Lightning's deployment. But there are people who are making Lightning-only wallets, or trying to make it make it feel easy to use, and get the interoperability right. So, yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see what, it should provide a lot of scale and open up new use cases as well for sort of metering, right? So you can pay for Wi-Fi by the minute, or things like that.
You want to move the discussion over to the hard forks? And I call it the two little elephants in the room.
No, I've got more questions before we go to that. So a lot of people have been waiting for a large project to come out of Blockstream. For a while, we thought it would be Liquid and the side chains.
Oh, yeah, Liquid.
But now it's starting to look like it's going to be the Blockstream satellites. I wonder if you could just tell us a little more about the satellite program and what you guys have planned.
Okay, so the idea is that we set up a network of satellites. So we leased bandwidth on commercial satellites, and at the moment we have 4 coverage zones using 3 different satellites. So one for North America, one that covers parts of North America and South America, one for Europe, and one for Africa. And so it's streaming Bitcoin blocks in real time. Right now it's just streaming the blocks, but we will switch it to streaming the transactions and then the blocks using compact blocks, which will mean you'll be able to receive the transactions faster and the blocks faster, because compact blocks are lower latency. And it's, by the end of the year, we're planning to cover the rest of the planet. So full coverage. And as to what you would do with this, it depends on your situation, but it definitely lowers the cost of running a full node. Even if you have a decent internet connection, streaming Bitcoin can slow it down if you're doing other things. And it also helps privacy because it's completely passive. So you can be receiving a Bitcoin feed of blocks without anybody seeing your node's IP address on the peer-to-peer network. So nobody knows you're using it. If you're in a country that maybe frowns on you using it, they can't tell you're using it because it's passive technology. And when you come to send a transaction, transactions are very small. You could send them over SMS, you could send them over Tor. And so what you can do with your full node, if you're already internet connected, is you can run a full node wallet on it. Some people also thought of the idea of running an offline computer with its only connection being a read-only satellite link. Mm-hmm. So that's another kind of sort of like an offline node that knows what's going on in the world kind of thing. But generally you could connect your smartphone wallet to your own full node over Tor. So, and the Green Dress wallet and the Samurai wallet have a configuration to do that. And in that way you get full node security, which is good to have when unstable things are happening on the network with forks. So yeah, that helps there. But also for emerging markets, it reduces the cost of full node ownership. So there's a guy called Tim Akimbo, who's a software developer in West Africa. And it looks like he's the only full node in like 500 kilometers of radius.
Sure.
So he's, for that kind of area of the world where fast internet connection is expensive, you can run a full node very cheaply. The satellite equipment is about $100. If you can recycle a satellite dish, it's a standard satellite dish. The specific to the Blockstream satellite is about $20. So with that and your power costs, then you have no recurring cost to receive the Bitcoin transaction network. And with that, then they can pull an internet connection or send out transactions through SMS, GPRS, whatever they have, basically.
So this would give users in areas with bad internet or perhaps bad governments the ability to run full nodes and then process transactions, maybe sending them to the network through SMS, verifying them through the satellite and the full node, which would be a one-way, download-only, passive direction, not monitorable by the government. They're just listening to the air.
Right, exactly, yeah. Yeah, so what you said about the interest from countries. So there is a coincidence between countries which have poor infrastructure, maybe financial hardship, poverty, unstable currencies. They tend to be also the countries that have weak infrastructure and can't afford to pay for these things. So they have a good demand for Bitcoin potentially if the scale is there. But maybe they can't afford to access it. Or can't afford to access it in a direct way.
All right. Well, a very quick question on Liquid. Just what's the status of that project? I find it to be very interesting, and I also find it to be very scary.
Okay, so we can talk about both of those things then. So the status is that we're working with about a dozen exchanges on integration. So there's a lot of action in Japan because there's a lot of volume there, and in the US, Bitfinex is one of the providers in the US dollar side of it. People are interested to do arbitrage, often US dollar to US dollar or Japan to Japan, but also internationally. And obviously the idea is that you can move Bitcoins very quickly on this sidechain because it's not relying on mining, and you can do it very privately because it's using confidential transactions. There have been stories about people trying to monitor the blockchain to look for trades to front run, basically. So the confidentiality can help there. But obviously having the Bitcoin part of it is the lesser of the two problems. If you've got to wait an hour to deposit some coins to take an arbitrage opportunity, and it takes you an hour, that's not so bad compared to if you have to wire money somewhere and it takes you 3 days or something. So what we're working on now is the next step. So the next version is going to have fiat support. So this is a sidechain with extensions that includes the ability to have issued assets, which could be shares or bonds or anything. But we'll issue, on the network there'll be US dollar coins, and so the experience would be you could wire money to an exchange, get the US dollar coins and the Bitcoins in a smartphone wallet with hardware wallet support, and move them very quickly to another exchange to take arbitrage on both sides of that.
And when do you think like a beta version of this might be released?
So it's in beta now, but that is, so there are transactions happening, but those are the funds of the exchanges themselves.
Right, like beta for the users.
Yeah, so beta for the users Q1 next year.
Okay. All right, a little quick thing on, oh, you want to follow up?
I'm ready to go now.
Let's do a very quick, let's finish up like 2 to 3 minutes. Let's talk about
well, no, I mean on the hard issues, yeah.
Yeah, the hard forks. You have a question in mind?
Basically, things have become more and more contentious in Bitcoin. You mentioned the user-activated soft fork. Some companies got together in New York, had the New York agreement. They agreed to do SegWit, then 2x. This allowed them to duck under the user-activated hard fork and verify it without verifying it. SegWit was activated on the network, but at the same time, they created a new coin. They created a coin called Bcash or Bitcoin Cash. Took off for a little while, seems to be going down in price now, and the miners are switching back and forth among other problems. What are your general thoughts about Bcash?
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit odd because as I understand it, I mean, I wasn't in these meetings, but as I understand it, they were hoping to avoid hard fork, and yet it was created by one of their core participants, Bitmain, actually created the hard fork. I mean, it's not a rumor. They published the UAHF paper. I believe they funded the developer on ABC, GitHub, and more rumors about buying the coins, and I mean, actually on stage promoting the coin too. So
sure.
I mean, it's not for us to judge. People are free to make altcoins and new coins and promote them. Personally, I'm not very interested in that. I just buy and hold Bitcoin. Yeah, it's a bit odd for the agreement, because you could say, well, is the agreement still relevant if that was a core tenet to avoid that hard fork, or well, now the hard fork is there and it's functioning, and it has some problems which presumably they will look to fix. What is it? The EDA?
Yes, the emergency difficulty adjustment. Yeah.
So, I mean, presumably they'll eventually fix that. So, I mean, you could say, well, why do we need another hard fork?
And that was one of the questions Jimmy Song asked the mining panel at the Breaking Bitcoin conference in Paris, and he got a very interesting answer. They said that because there were now 2 chains, the miners, at least at that panel, and there were representatives from Bitfury and other mining companies there, they said because there are now 2 chains, the New York agreement was invalidated. They said that they were not required to mine the 2x branch, and that the miners could actually make up their own mind.
Well, I mean, there's something else hiding in that summary, which is that miners, I mean, as we discussed earlier, miners don't set the protocol rules. They provide a service that's paid, and they only get paid when they make valid blocks for the chain they're mining on. So, and their decision about which chain to mine is driven by profitability. So basically, if in the hypothetical that the miners made a coin that nobody was interested in, or they decided to make proofs of work on pictures of cats or something, right?
Sure.
Then nobody's going to pay for them. They would stop pretty soon because they would be losing however many tens of millions of dollars a day that this adds up to. So. I think from that, looking at it from that perspective, it doesn't look to me like miners are going to do, they're just going to mine what's profitable in the short term or the midterm, because they also have like a midterm investment and an interest to see Bitcoin do well and continue adoption.
And do you think the 2x hard fork is going to happen in November? And do you think it would be more or less relevant than the Bcash and what we've seen, in your best guess?
So, I mean, there's one reason I'm thinking it probably is going to happen regardless, which is that, people thought the user-activated hard fork wouldn't happen, and yet some miners decided to make it anyway. And so, if there is any kind of interest for speculation or whatever the motive was last time, maybe somebody will do it anyway. just because it's an opportunity to speculate or what have you. So there's that. But I mean, I think, you know, whether they, I mean, the other sort of complexity is that Bcash had, you know, some advantages and some disadvantages. So I mean, it had advantages basically. So it was missing SegWit, but it had replay protection, which they added, you know, pretty close to the release date because exchanges warned them that they wouldn't list it if they didn't, because it would create problems. So they added replay protection, but they didn't change the address format. So then, you know, a bunch of people are continuing to send Bitcoin to Bcash addresses and Bitcoin Cash to Bitcoin addresses, and that causes its own problem. And some of the exchanges now start to have a fee where if you send them, you know, the wrong coin and they have to have somebody manually get it out, they're going to charge you $30 to cover their costs and inconvenience. So that's an unnecessary nuisance. It would have been very easy to change the address format. So, but I mean, what do we call the other coin? It doesn't really have a name, right? B2X.
Oh, I think they're trying to call it Bitcoin.
I'm afraid so.
Yeah.
Yes. I believe that's part of their plan. I've always said Bitcoin has no central company to market it. It also has no central company to protect its trademarks. The Bcash logo is the Bitcoin logo, is slanted to the left on a green background. And I don't know what the B2X logo is going to be, but I'm expecting a Bitcoin logo again.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
I mean, apparently there was already confusion with Bitcoin Cash because they gave it the ticker BCC, and I noticed on the WeChat forums that people refer to it as BCC, so the Chinese exchanges were using BCC, but there's an existing coin called BCC.
Sure.
So some of the other exchanges ended up calling it BCH, and I heard that there are people who bought BCC by accident, like bought Bitcoin Connect or whatever the old coin was.
Sure.
So, I mean, and I got to imagine that there are some like very new users who would come on and end up buying Bitcoin Cash when they thought they were buying Bitcoin, and that's not good, right? I mean, people should make an informed decision. It's also like very confusing and sort of fragmenting thing. But I mean, you know, whether they now with B2X, you know, they don't even have proper replay protection. So you know, the replay protection, such as it is opt-in. It looked like yesterday they were about to change, considering changing it to a different replay protection. We don't know what that will be. It's all you know, getting very late and insufficiently tested. I think, you know,
is that part surprising?
That they're looking to change? Well, I mean...
No, that it's insufficiently tested and it's last minute and no one knows what's going on.
I don't know. I mean, the Bitcoin protocol, you know, there's a lot of people working on it, right? Researchers from different universities.
That's why we trust it.
Companies, and there's like 100 people plus working on it at various, you know, to various degrees, either as a hobby or full-time in an academic context or what have you. So obviously a new fork doesn't have the resources and the experience as well, because it's, you know, it's probably the most high-risk piece of software on the planet at this point, and there's some very high assurance testing that goes into it, you know, automated testing, fuzz testing, and testing the tests, testing, some kind of thing where you intentionally trigger the failures to test the test program. People forget to do that. And, you know, interoperability testing, network testing, there's a ton of stuff that happens. And so the Bitcoin project doesn't release a protocol upgrade, you know, like the SegWit upgrade, I think, took a year and probably something like 9 or 10 months from starting coding until it was available for activation, and then longer for activation. So, and that was a soft fork, right? I mean, a hard fork is actually worse because it's going to have compatibility problems. And basically, every single piece of software and hardware on the network has to be adapted if it wants to follow. And there's also a lot of software that's designed around a singleton architecture. It only knows about one coin, right? And suddenly it has two, and they have a month to deal with it, right? The deal is. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know, there's different possible outcomes. I mean, one outcome is that the exchanges start asking for proper replay protection, and they do that. Obviously, they were hoping for a better market reaction than we see on the B2X futures that Bitfinex has.
Sure.
So maybe it seems, curiously, the value seems relatively consistent with the all these different online opinion polls that people put out, including there was one that uses the Coinbase KYC API. So that was a way to
Luke Dash Jr. set that up.
Yeah, to deter people from rigging the vote, basically. Makes it much more difficult. So they all seem to be fairly consistent and consistent with the price. My other theory is that if you take an opinion poll, that's users that are interested. So they're a little bit interested. Some people are maybe not tracking online forums, so it's not fully representative. But my other theory is that the people who have more money in Bitcoin because they were in there earlier or because they're an investor, they will have researched it more, right? So I would imagine that if the opinion poll is 75%, it seems to be fairly consistent by polls just across the users or online active users, that it's going to be much more by dollar weighting, because you've got all these early Bitcoin whales and fund managers, and there are some VCs that manage Bitcoin funds on behalf of their VC clients or investors generally. So a lot of these people have been actively asking questions and concerned about disruption on behalf of their clients. But I think the investor thesis is also that it's counter-cyclical to an uncertain world. So you get geopolitical disruption, Bitcoin price goes up. So in that situation, I think Bitcoin itself is more interesting than a sort of retail optimized medium security chain. So I don't think there's much. If you have 1 million new users using retail, they put $100 in, they buy the gadget, they keep a little bit of change, and the retailer sells it for dollars. That really doesn't do much for the price. It creates sell pressure and temporary buys. But if you had, instead of 1 million new users, if you had 10,000 new investors that each put in, well, not even 10,000, right? 1,000 investors that each put in $1,000, or 100 investors that put in $10,000, that will do a lot more to the price. So I think the overall picture for an investment angle, like my opinion, is that it's the sort of retail optimized spin-offs are not going to do well as an asset class. So if that's all you want, there are lots of altcoins, right? If you just want
Litecoin, many others. But other than the obvious time crunch, is there any reason you can think of why they wouldn't want to offer replay protection?
Well, I mean, I think they were hoping that they would be able to persuade people or use their number of users to sort of cause people to capitulate or follow what their lead, so that everybody would go onto their chain. But it hasn't really happened that way. And so I got to assume that replay is it forces a change, I guess. Everybody has to adapt. But the question is, how do they adapt? They're probably going to go do some research that they haven't done before, try and understand it some more, and install a wallet that keeps using Bitcoin and protects us better. So there will be, I think it's a move towards full nodes, trigger a move towards full nodes, because the smartphone wallets are not really as able to detect and protect against that kind of thing. Of course, many of the smartphone wallets nowadays are not really SPV, they're like hybrids. They have a semi-trusted server and they cross-check it with an SPV node, so they're already immune to hard forks. But I think the biggest problem is the lack of replay protection. If they fix the replay protection, then it's like relatively safe, like Bcash. But of course, if they start promoting it to users in stores, it's going to be interesting. From a confusion between users and merchants, right? So I think that anybody who's doing merchant integration, even if they have they like these retail chains, are going to have to support both, because 95% of the users have Bitcoin, and in the meantime, while this is going on, Lightning is coming online. So at that point, you start to wonder, like, well, what was the point actually? It's kind of bad timing, right? If we didn't know anything about Lightning hadn't been invented, there would be a tricky conversation right now. But as Lightning is, warming up right now, it seems like an odd time to have this conversation, right? And also, I mean, the other thing that is a little bit unusual is that, most of the companies that are involved in the New York Agreement actually have been the slowest and haven't yet adopted SegWit. So, if they're only getting a 2 times increase and they're willing to try to put all this effort into, supporting this thing, which would be quite difficult with all the replay problems, right? It's just much easier to integrate SegWit, and they haven't done it. So it's sort of conflicting situation.
It's very strange they haven't adopted SegWit, especially companies like Coinbase and BitPay, where they do process so many transactions and they have so much to save, but they're not willing to do it. With the one-chain idea, do you think this is kind of like when Vitalik was having the problem and they split off Ethereum and Ethereum Classic? He went around to the exchanges first and he said, trust us, there'll be one chain, no one will mine that old chain, you'll be fine. Then somebody mined the old chain, some exchange listed it, and pretty soon they're all listing it, they're all mining it, and now we have at least 2 Ethereums and maybe more in the near future.
So was there a question at the beginning?
I think we'll go more into the confusion issue where just today Roger Ver announced on GitHub and Jeff Garzik seconded it on Twitter that Bitcoin.com is going to list B2X as Bitcoin with the ticker symbol BTC.
Okay, so that's super confusing, and it's also kind of confusing as to what Roger is doing there, because I think it was only a week ago that he was on stage saying that Bitcoin Cash was the real Bitcoin, in his opinion, and furthermore that he was intending to dump, i.e. sell all of his B2X coins to buy more Bcash, and now he's switched. So I mean, if he's in the market advising people, that conference is promoting people to buy Bitcoin Cash, how does this look for the naive people who took that advice and now the price is falling, right? I mean, you shouldn't forget that there are many users who still have Bitcoin Cash that they were unable to sell, right? They have it.
All the Coinbase users are still locked up. Many users have them in paper wallets or offline wallets they don't really want to touch, even if they would get free money.
Well, actually, the physical coins is another one.
Sure, Casacious coins have more value if you don't take the sticker off.
Right, so it's a trade-off. Like, you peel it to get the Bcash, but then you destroyed the coin's collectible
Sure.
value.
So the price of Bcash has been coming down since the 21st of August, and we're almost at new lows here.
Yeah.
All right, you want to end it here? Any more questions?
What do you
for
think
Adam?
will happen? Do you think there'll be a 2x hard fork? Will they attack Bitcoin? If all the miners leave Bitcoin and go to B2X, will Bitcoin have to do a proof of work switch?
Not with a price that's 75 to 95% of the value. They won't. and anyway, all that will happen is the difficulty will come down. So I mean, people are thinking that difficulty adjustment is not very fast, but you can hold while difficulty is high.
Sure.
And if you're making a slow investment decision to add more Bitcoin or just to, sell out to pay for something that you need to pay for, you can afford to wait a day. I mean, we've got 10-minute blocks.
Sure.
How slow can it go? I think it's fine, and it will adjust.
All right. Thank you so much, Adam, for being on the show. And
for coming on the show. We have, I can only assume you have a Trezor as one of your storage means.
I do. I have multiple.
All right. Well, you will get to choose between a black or a brown, or you can have them both. We have a sponsor, Crypto HW Wallet, and here you go. We'll show you what they look like.
They're really nice. They're genuine leather. You can smell it. The guy kept smelling his yesterday.
Like that. So there you go. It's for.
I'll take the black one.
To make them. No, you can have them both. There you go. You can give one to someone at Blockstream if you like.
All right, thank you.
But you can take them both. One of each color. There you go.
Wow, that's good. Thank you, Dr. Bass. Great.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much
Thank you
for
so
being on the
much for
show.
coming on.
Yeah.
And we'll catch you tomorrow at the event.
Sure. Thank you.
All right.